Hello everyone, it's Rami Figali from the AiiHC program. Today we continue what we've seen in the third lesson, the frequency of distribution, the second part. In the previous lesson we've seen the absolute frequency and the relative frequency. The absolute frequency is denoted small n index I and corresponds to the number of occurrences. For example, if we have the variable which contains in fact the observations 2, 3 times, 4 and 5, the absolute frequency of having 2, the number 2 as an observation is 3 times. In fact, we have 3 observations, which is 2. So the absolute frequency is equal to 2 and it is denoted small n index 2. The same thing for n4, it's equal to 1, and n5 is equal to 1. For the relative frequency, the formula that is given is small f index I is equal to small n index I over capital N. For example, to calculate the frequency, the relative frequency of the number 2, we'll have to divide small n index 2, which is equal to 3, by 5, which is the size of the sample. So here we have 5 observations in our sample. But today we'll see the cumulative absolute frequency and the cumulative relative frequency. We continue in fact with the frequency of distribution, and it's quite simple. You have it in the middle of the screen. To the left is a formula of the cumulative absolute frequency. Capital N index I is equal to the sum of all the absolute frequencies small n index I from I equal to 1 till k, with k the number of levels or groups. For example, if we wish to calculate n capital index I, we look in fact to the absolute frequency, and we have small n index 1, which is equal to n small n index 2 in fact. N1 here in our case is equal to N2. So we replace it in the example. Capital N index I is equal to small n index 2 is equal to 3. Same thing for the following cumulative absolute frequencies. N2 is equal to N1 plus N2. In our example, N2 is equal, capital N2 is equal to small n2 plus N4. And for N3, it's equal to N2 plus N4 plus N5, it's equal to 5. Here you can have small n index 1, index 2, index 3, or to indicate in fact the observation, the exact observation, we put 2 in fact. And we'll see in the in fact table or the graphics that we will draw later. In fact, we'll use those notation. We call them notation. And finally, capital N index k is equal to the sum of all the absolute frequencies from 1 till k. With those, in fact, calculated cumulative absolute frequencies, we can calculate the cumulative relative frequency, which is capital F index I, and is equal to capital N index I, which is the cumulative absolute frequency over capital N, which is the size of the sample. And it's very easy to calculate. We have a capital F index 1 is equal to capital N1 over N. F2 is equal to N2 over N, and F3 is equal to N3 over N. In our example, this will give you F1 is equal to 3/5, F2 is equal to 4/5, and F3 is equal to 5 over 5 or 1. And with those values, in fact, we can draw our graph. And here we'll take the horizontal axis, or the x-axis, which corresponds to the groups of observations, in fact. So these are different groups of observations. In our example, we have the group of 2, the group of 4, and the group of 5. So we put them on our axis, and with the vertical axis or the y-axis, will draw, in fact, we'll add the cumulative relative frequencies Fi or F index I. So here we have three values: 3/5, 4/5, and 1. 5/5 is 1. And we draw the curve corresponding to x and y. We have the coordinates, in fact, of our points, and we draw the curve. We have three observations, and like you could see, in fact, increasing is very fast between 0 and 2, and then it becomes more or less horizontal. And the slope, in fact, will decrease between 2 and 5, which is very logical and correspond really to our values. So, like I've said before, this is how, in fact, you will find the quartiles and quantiles in your sample, and we apply those, let's say, frequency of distribution mainly for the qualitative variables. And the discrete variables, we can also use them with the continuous variables, but like I've said before, there's other methods. We'll see them progressively during the following and further chapters and lessons. If you have any questions, you can write me on my personal email, ref@aiihc.com, ref@aiihc.com, or on contact@aiihc.com, or you can post a message here under the video while I answer you. It's an open course, like I've said to you. During 2 months, I try to make all the lessons of the full syllabus of the AiiHC program, which means we'll have progressively, in fact, the modeling, the regression, linear regressions, and so on. And then we'll move to the machine learning, artificial intelligence, and the coding under R, Python, and so on. And the last part will be the business part. Keep safe, everybody, and see you later with the 5th lesson in this module and the chapter AiiHC 00, which is the introduction to statistics. Bye bye, everybody.